Okay, so hey, and welcome to another IC82 video. I hope you've missed me. I'm sure you have. This is the mini-series. This was originally just going to be titled the mini-series, but because Series 4 is so close, I thought I'd do a kind of like Gran Turismo thing and call it Series 4 Prologue. So basically, this mini-series is going to be quite intense, and I mean quite intense, like 2 or 3 videos a week, basically getting all these locomotives out of the way. What locomotives? Well, they're locomotives, they're models that I looked at when I started the channel a couple of years ago, and well, 3 years ago technically now, and they weren't very good reviews. I did a basic job back then, I didn't put them on the track even. So I've been asked by tons and tons of people to go back to do those locomotives properly. So the very first one I did, I think, actually, is this Class 58 by Heljan, and there's some real beauties coming up too, because we've got the Class G2A by Batman, they're known as Super Ds. That is an amazing locomotive, so I'm looking forward to doing them all again. But they're being done, well, they're not just being done again with involving putting them on track, but they're being done in this style of Series 4 as well. So you might notice a few different things here and there, but I hope you can bear with me. So this first one we're going to have a look at is by Heljan. There are absolutely no prizes for guessing that. And this is a Class 58 in EW&S. So it's sort of around the time when EW&S took over rail freight. Well, lots of the rail freight operations, and they weren't EW&S, they were EW&S. The lovely maroon and gold livery, which I do like, and what's quite annoying is that as I got back into trains, Hornby, who have been making the Class 58 basically since the day I was born, stopped. They stopped literally just a few years before I got back into it. So some people might say that's a good thing, because the Hornby's 58s were quite basic, and Heljan have come along and done a much better job. But I don't know, the original 58 is still a firm favourite of mine, and obviously it's very special because it's what I'm holding here in my hand. This is literally the first locomotive, the first train I ever had at 4 years old. Oh, so it doesn't matter what your first train is, it's always going to be special. And I know in real life that they weren't actually very successful. They had traction problems, they suffered from wheel slip, so they didn't do the job they were supposed to do very well, and a lot of people didn't like them. But I don't care about that. Who cares about that? We're not talking about the real things, we're talking about the models. And this little baby here has never given me any trouble. She's nearly as old as I am, obviously, 26 years old now, and she has given me sterling performance for as long as I can remember. So the 58s are a firm favourite of mine. I love the style, I love the way they're so thin in the middle, and then they've got these like cab ends, and they're quite an iconic locomotive. People forget this, but they were, I think, the first locomotive to be built in Britain that was modular. So basically the cabs were built separately, and the compartment here was built separately, and the subframe was built separately, and the bogies were built. Basically it was like a gigantic Airfix kit or Lego model, and all these different parts would come together, and it made the building of them really cheap and economical. And if something needed replacing, like if maybe one of them was involved in a collision and this whole cab was smashed up, then they just simply grab the cab, take it out and put a new cab in. And never ever before could that happen. This was basically paving the way for the future. And computers, from computers to cars, so many things are built in that way now. I mean, just look at the Airbus. The Airbus A380 or the Airbus A340, they use exactly the same technique right across Europe. Different parts are built in different countries, and then they all go together, and so that's quite special. So yeah, I love the Class 58. I frankly don't care if you don't like it. I really don't care. It's my favourite locomotive, and so when I got back into the trains, one of the first models I got was this by Heljan. So let's open the box and see what we've got inside. Well, the first thing you'll notice is just look at this box. Look at that. This is one heavy duty box. I mean, this makes Bachmann look like they're just shipping their stuff out in tissue paper. It's really, really strong. So, a little bit of a blur there. And you know, for collectors, or even just people that want to store their locomotives nice and safely, this is a cracking box. It's not going to win any green awards, that's true, but well, we're not likely to throw it away, are we? So it's not too bad. So yeah, you get some instructions, obviously. Now, the holes don't come free. That's me. I've put those in because I keep all my instructions in a folder, you see. So I just hole punch them and put them away there for reference. You do get some accessories in these little pockets there, but I have actually fitted those accessories. Well, I say fitted. I've fitted some of them. I've not fitted all of them. I think the rest I've put in my little spares knick-knack place. So let's just get the locomotive out. There's no holes in the back or anything like that, but it's okay because it's foam, so it's dead easy to just slide your fingers in and grab it. Take off this little bit of plastic, a little bit of sheeting, and there she is. So, sorry about the jump cut, just had to sneeze. So the first thing you notice is that the difference between this locomotive and the one made by Hornby is in the weight. There's a huge difference in weight. This weighs a ton. Well, not literally, obviously, otherwise my hand would be crushed to the floor, but it's really, really heavy. And there's hardly anything in this at all. Well, no, that's not fair. There's enough weight, there's enough, but there's an awful lot more. I would say more than double in the model by Heljan here. Okay, so everything out of the way, let's have a close look at this particular model. Just look at that. It's beautiful. Just look how pristine it is. Look at the livery application and how smart it is. You've got that beautiful golden line running all the way along the subframe there. And then, are they sprung? Yes, of course they are. Yep, the buffers are sprung, which it's a lovely little touch. I do like that. Oh, that one was a bit stiff, but actually it's not very sprung, that one isn't. Maybe, oh, well, there we go. Well, maybe that one needs taking out and the spring needs a bit of oil or something, I don't know. But yes, they're sprung basically, they're okay. What's the roof like? Well, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It would be nice if those fans actually did spin, but they don't. I'm pretty sure that they don't spin. 99% sure they don't spin. We do have lights there. Yes, we do. There's your actual main headlight, if you like, and then you have these two little white ones and then two little red ones. So as the locomotive's coming towards you, you have this big one down here on, and I think the two little white ones, and as the locomotive's going away from you, you get the two little red ones at the top. And then there's the coupling system, which is beautifully modelled. I don't know how well the camera's picking that up, but to my eye it looks, well, fantastic. The detail there is a little bit basic, so that's a bit of a shame. But you could always just hide that. You could disguise it and make it all look weathered and stuff. So rust it up a bit and make it dirty, and no one would notice. Not as it shoots past with a huge rake of MGR hoppers. There's no little guy in the cab, but then that's not really an indication as to what the front of the locomotive is anyway. As a sort of I don't know if this is right, and it doesn't really matter, but basically nearly every locomotive you buy will have, well, every diesel electric like this will have a couple of holes here, a couple of vents in the roof where the air is drawn in to feed the engines and to keep their motors, well, the generators cool and stuff like that. So I always basically make this the front of the locomotive. Where these vents are, that's where I define the front of the locomotive. I could be wrong, I could be totally wrong, but again, I mean, just look at it. It doesn't matter, does it? I mean, the locomotive, this model is designed to go in either direction quite happily. It's not like it's 1939 or something. So there we go. Wouldn't worry about it too much. So yes, you can see there's the number of the locomotive. So it's a 58 because it's a class 58, and then 024, so number 24. I don't know if it still exists. I couldn't tell you. Although I do have a book on class 58s. Look at this. You see, I'm just so mad on this particular class because it's the very first one I got, that I have books on them and videos on them and everything. See, that's what I want. Look at that. That's what they were designed to do. That's what they were built to do. They were built to replace class 56s and class 47s that were pulling rakes of MGR hoppers. MGR stands for merry-go-round. Basically, they would just go from the power station to the coal mine, pick up loads of coal, back to the power station, and they just would never stop, because once they got to the power station, they would just go really slowly and let out all the coal, and then once they got to the coal mine or wherever, they would just fill up really slowly with the coal, and then they basically never stopped. If there's one thing the class 58 does well, it's move really smoothly at a very slow speed. And it had the motors did have special well, not gearing, but they had an ability to pull tons of weight at a very, very slow and very smooth speed. Okay, they didn't do it very well. They actually suffered from wheel slip. We know, we've established that, but who cares? In model form, we're not going to be beset with any of those problems, are we? So we don't need to worry about that. But just look how smart that is. I mean, I love how you see you've got the red there at the bottom of the 58, and then there's like red on each hopper. And yeah, so basically, ever since I was little, seriously, ever since I was 4 years old, I have wanted to do this. I have wanted a class 58 with a huge rake of coal hoppers just roaring around my layout, because that's what I grew up with. This is the 80s. This was, you know, the 80s was full of scenes like this. Okay, you don't get it now. Now it's class 66s with massive, huge, heavy haul coal hoppers and stuff, and it's just not the same. But I guess if I had a little son and he was growing up right now, you know, that's what he would like. But I grew up with this, so that's what I like, and that's what I'm going to do. So the first locomotive I ordered was this by Heljan, and it's fantastic. I really have to be honest. They've done a brilliant job. It is definitely superior to the Hornby one. If we just have a look at them both, you can, I mean, just look, right, there we go, look at that. Just look at the two ends. Let's just straighten this bogie up a little bit, there we go. So you can see that, well, Hornby have been nice enough to paint the subframe there. That's just purely a cosmetic thing. The actual detail isn't as good. And the lights, well, they're non-existent. What else have we got? Well, look, little things like that. Look at the top in between the windows. You've got the electric warning signs for the overhead wires and stuff. I know they don't use overhead, but even steam locomotives have to carry those silly little signs just to warn people of the overhead wires. And the roof, just look at the roof. If I just spin it round, you can see that there's a huge difference there. It's just nowhere near as nice. And on the side, what is nice is Hornby have given us at least a nice metal handrail. That's a plus. That's a plus for Hornby, because Heljan have barely given us anything, and what they have given us is plastic. So that's not as good. But inside is where the big difference is, and unfortunately I can't show you that in this type of video, because I'm not going to start opening up every locomotive I get. But inside these two, basically you've got just a standard ring-filled motor over this bogie, and that's it. But in this, by Heljan, you have a huge centrally mounted motor with twin flywheels, and then connecting rods going all the way down, you know, well, massive drive shafts basically, going all the way down to each bogie. And that's powered, that's powered, that's powered, and that's powered. It's just, yeah, it's just these middle axles here that are unpowered. So basically 4 powered axles, whereas with this, you've got just two, that one, and that's it. The rest are all freewheeling. So that's going to make a huge difference when it comes to traction and haulage capability. So I expect this EW&S Class 58 by Heljan to perform very well indeed. Certainly to better the original by Hornby. So we'll have to see just how well it does in future videos. Okay, so we've had a look at the Hornby one, we've even had a look at a book over there, we've had a look at the Heljan one. We can see how fantastic that detail is. I can certainly feel how heavy it is. It's a quality model, it really is quality. And the box is just fantastic too. So there's only one thing left to do, and that's to put it on the track and see how she runs. Okay, so here we are over at the layout, along with the world's most famous piece of skirting board. Hooray, it's still there. So you have to excuse the little track setter we have just here, but the temporary layout in the conservatory is undergoing some pretty major changes at the moment, which you'll see over the series of vids coming up. Basically, this mini-series will also show you the layout in the temporary layout in the conservatory changing. So you'll be pleased to see that the blue tack is back. It's basically necessary to keep the track in place, because I'm definitely not tacking pins into this, not like I am with the proper layout. So there it is, back in place. Just grab the loco. Okay, so I'll put it on this track, the outermost loop, and I shall make it, oh, that's not on properly, there we go, it's that loose middle axle, you see, there we go, that's more like it, much better. So yeah, we've got the vents there at the front of the locomotive, well, I'm calling it the front of the locomotive. So this is actually DCC, this has been chipped. This was bought a DC locomotive, but DCC ready. So in there is a tiny little socket where the DCC chip has been slotted in, turning it into a DCC locomotive. And it was given the number 28 because according to my scheme, anything from 20 to 40 is basically a diesel. And I thought, well, 28 because it's a 58, and 28 is also the day I was born. I was born on the 28th of August, so I thought that was quite fitting, seeing as a Class 58 was my first ever train, and I got it for my birthday in 1986. So I'll quit yammering on, switch on the power, select number 28, I'll put the lights on, there we go, can you see that? Lights off, lights on, there we go. So it's not terribly drastic, but hopefully we'll get some better shots of them later on. Okay, so I'll pick a direction, and now about the direction. In some of my previous review vids, I basically used this outer loop to send the trains that way, so away from the camera, which would be correct if this was like a two-lane part of the national rail network. But sending them this way, which is typically the direction I usually send them in, has often angered a lot of people and caused offence, because they would tell me, you know, they'd come along and angrily say on the bottom, oh, trains never go that way, they always go that way, or you're running it in the wrong direction, or you're running it on the wrong line. But then when I did start to run it this way, people would come back and say, well, actually, no, it's totally okay. You can get trains going this way too. It really doesn't matter. It can be that it's just, you know, maybe there's engineering work on this line, and so it's having to use the other one. So basically, it doesn't matter, does it? It really doesn't matter. On the proper layout upstairs, it's different again, because there's actually 3 main lines. So for this temporary layout down here in the conservatory, I'm just going to do whatever's best for the camera shots, okay? Because that's why you're watching this video. You're watching it to see this locomotive. You're not watching it for realism. I mean, come on. We're not here for realism. There's no grass or skirting board in you know, in this layout. So yeah, I'm going to get it going this way, just because I can get better camera shots if I do that. So there we go, I've said my piece, rant over. I shall not have to say that again for the rest of this mini-series. So, Class 58, oh, I love you, I really do. One of my favourite, well, my favourite, the most favourite class of locomotive I have. In model form, it's just beautiful, absolutely fantastic. So, come on then, give it some juice, Will. And away she goes. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? I've said that before. Now, as she goes around this bend, you'll see that the track layout has changed. Look, see? Look at that, there's Percy, aka network rail. And you can see there that the track network has changed quite considerably. I'll have to cover that in another video. At the moment, we've got this Class 58 going around the layout at a very, very slow speed. I'm going to basically be doing low speed performance before I do you know, high speed performance, and just look how smooth that is. Just look at that. I mean, okay, so she's DCC and we'd expect her to run quite smoothly anyway, but this new motor, this new mechanism by Heljan really does handle low speed quite well, because she basically runs as good as this in DC mode too, which is really rather special. Here she comes, getting right close if I can. And then I'll go follow her around this time. Okay, so we've seen plenty of slow speed performance now, and we know that she handles it really, really well. In fact, I can probably get her going a little bit slower. If I just grab hold of the controller, look at this, okay. A bit slower, a bit slower, a bit slower. Okay, I've taken my hand off the controller again, so I'm holding the camera nice and steady, and you can barely see that moving. Just look at that. Look at that. Have you ever seen anything like it? Okay, again, I know she's DCC, so we expect that kind of smooth performance, but you've got to have a good motor as well. You've got to have a good mechanism to be able to do that. And this motor and mechanism by Heljan, it's just fantastic. There's no way you can get the Hornby one to do something like that. It would just splutter and die. So that's really impressive. Big thumbs up there for Heljan and this motor that they put in the new 58, because that is just, well, you can make your MGR, you know, your coal hopper operations incredibly realistic with a speed like that. With a mechanism like that, you're laughing basically. So yeah, very impressive. Now let's see what she's got if we open the throttle up a little bit. So I go over to the Hornby DCC Select here, which is my very basic Hornby DCC controller. This is going to be fine, by the way, for this whole mini series. It'll be fine for the temporary layout. The new layout upstairs is going to have a new DCC controller and a new DC controller as well. Neither of them are by Hornby, but that's for future videos. So let's whack it up and see. That's quite interesting. The camera thinks that this is a face. It's definitely not. Facial recognition spazzing out a little bit there. Okay, a bit quicker still. Yeah, come on, open her up. Okay, that's about as fast as I can get her to go. And that's plenty quick enough. I mean, that's a scale speed of what? 60, no, probably 80, 90 miles an hour, which is about as fast as they went anyway, so there's definitely no need to go any quicker than that. Okay, what's particularly nice is that even though she's absolutely bombing it around the layout, there's just this really smooth rumble coming from the motor. It's a really nice sound, and it's letting you know that she can handle that no problem. And that's really nice as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna slow her down now. That's it. Slow down, slow down, slow down. That's fantastic. So there we go. Here's the Class 58 by Heljan. Seriously is one fantastic model. If you're into modelling the 80s and you're into Class 58s and you're into coal trains, you know, MGR operations, if you haven't yet got one of these, I'm just going to very politely ask you why, because they're just fantastic. Look at that. Oh, it's just such a beautiful model. So smooth and so well detailed. Yeah, I've definitely made no mistake getting one of those. So if you want a Class 58, I definitely recommend the Class 58 by Heljan.